How many times have you started something and given up because you weren't seeing great results? You know, anything great takes time. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about patience and how patience can be one of those superpowers. Hey, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. Welcome back to my 100-day walk to consistency. So glad that you're here to join me on this journey of growth, journey of encouragement, and journey of setting ourselves up for success. Consistency, as you know, is the key, and being consistent sets us up for success, sets us up to be able to do all the things we need to do to get our health where it needs to be. So let's go ahead, let's get started. I'll see you on the walk. So we're talking about patience today, and why patience is going to be one of those things that we use to be successful. A couple of key points that I want to point out here right at the start is that number one, patience helps you remain focused. Patience helps you remain focused. Why does patience help you remain focused? Well, when we're patient, we have to take the time to evaluate the things that we are doing. When we're impatient, it's kind of a rush job. But in patience comes a built-in focusing mechanism, if you will. Because if we're going to be patient to gain the benefit of whatever we're working on, the benefit of whatever we're looking at, then we are focused on that thing. And that is sometimes something that's often overlooked because people think, hey, when I'm focused or when I'm patient, I'm just kind of twiddling my thumb and things are just not moving in a direction. And that's not true, because patience will help us to be focused, help us to maintain some accountability actually, because we have to spend more time looking at what it is that we are working on. Okay, patience also enhances the process of evaluation. Right, so we're focused, and then we do a better job of evaluating the thing that we're working on. So if you are working on being able to get up every day and walk and exercise, then the question that you're asking yourself when you're working on patience is, am I doing that? And if I'm not doing that, why am I not doing that? What can I do differently to enhance this process and get me to where I need to go? Not necessarily in a faster process, but sometimes that is a question. Is there something I could do to make this process go faster? Do I need to tweak? Do I need to change? Do I need to go in another direction? Right? So patience allows us to do all of that. Patience also allows us to stay consistent. Right? That's what we're talking about. So when we are patient, if we say, hey, I know that this process is going to take a while. I know that this process is not going to just be something that happens overnight. Then in order for me to see my success, then I've got to remain consistent in what I'm doing. So patience allows us to have all those benefits, which sometimes we overlook because we're so intent on getting to the goal that we miss the benefits that come from being patient. So I guess here's a good place to talk about the nature of. Ooh, gotta be careful with these. The nature of long-term goals, and when we've talked about establishing goals, we've talked, by virtue of what we've discussed, we're actually talking about long-term goals, right? We're talking about goals that, for instance, this one is a 100-day goal, 100-day walk, our 100-day walk of consistency to consistency. And so that's 100 days. But there are shorter goals that we have that are built into looking at mile markers, Are we moving in the right direction? Being able to evaluate that. And that all comes in shorter goals. And so the question is, what does having a longer goal mean, right? So the longer goals are not quick. They're not something that just happens overnight. They take time. They take sustained effort. They take planning. They take organization. They take, bringing resources to bear. They take communication. It takes intelligence. Now notice what's happening. So in the long-term goal, we are not just developing whatever the thing is that we're moving towards, but we're also developing other skills that we would not necessarily need to develop in some of the shorter term goals. So in order for me to, let's take this walk for example. In order for me to achieve this goal, right? This is a long-term goal, 100 days. Then I have to plan. I have to say, okay, what am I going to do? What are, for instance, the discussions? What are the topics that we're going to talk about? And I've got those planned out. How do I put those together? What's going to be the format? And you guys have seen that our format has adjusted a little bit from the beginning. A little bit more structure to the beginning of the video. That takes planning. When am I going to do it? I've told you that I don't have a particular time of day that I'm planning to do this, and that's because my schedule doesn't readily allow me to have a particular time every day where I come out and I walk. So you'll see me walking at lunch. You'll see me walking in the evening. You'll see me walking in the morning. I haven't walked at night as yet, but that's certainly a possibility. But what I do try to do is I do try to walk at a time when I'm videotaping that, you guys can at least see me, right? And that takes planning. So I've just finished seeing a patient, and I planned that I was going to do that today because tonight I am taping my show. We're going to go live, Dwain Woode MD live. And so I can't do it this evening after the show because it's going to be dark. Before the show, I'm going to be preparing for the show. And so I had to say to myself, okay, what is a reasonable time that I can do this? Now, there are other things that I need to do. There are other things that are on my calendar, but I know that I needed to do this. So I had to become organized. Well, not just that, but I've got a plan, right? All the discussions that we're going to have. Those discussions take preparing for, right? So I've got to write the outline, the points I want to make, and I'm walking through actually a little residential area. So what are those points that I'm going to make as we're having this discussion? But so notice all of those skills, I have to develop them if I'm going to be successfully, if I'm going to get to a long-term goal successfully. So it's not just that I'm looking at this particular goal, but I'm looking at and developing other things as well. It's kind of like planting a seed. So when you plant a seed, you don't expect that plant, that tree, whatever it is going to just sprout and automatically you get a plant or a tree. You expect that it's going to take nurturing, it's going to take sunlight, it's going to take water, it's going to take weeding, it's going to take all of those resources, all those skills, all the things that seed needs. And so it doesn't come up overnight, but it eventually comes up if you do everything that you're supposed to do and you do everything that is required. So everything that the seed needs, right, is actually in it. It's there's a word, ubiquitous. So it's everywhere. Everything that the seed needs is in the seed. But if you don't provide it with certain certain other items, then it doesn't grow. And so I want you to think about that as you're thinking about these different goals that we have, as you're even thinking about this 100-day walk to consistency, that it takes time, and it will not happen overnight. Anything that, I don't say anything, but I guess I will say anything that is worth doing in terms of changing our lives, in terms of setting ourselves up for success, it will take time. But once again, it is worth it. So don't give up in the process. And I'm walking up take a little breather here, walking up a little hill. Okay? So the question that we all want to ask as we're moving in the direction of saying, okay, how do I make sure that I'm working on my consistency, is how do we cultivate consistency? And the beauty of the things that we do, the beauty of the conversations that we have, the beauty of tools, is that there are some fundamental things that are universal in their applications. Hey, how are you? I'm just saying hi to somebody here as we walk. Universal in their application, so that you will notice that there are several things that we talk about that are applicable across the board. And once you learn them, you can begin extrapolating them in lots of areas. And the first one, in terms of being consistent and in terms of being patient, is to set realistic goals. Set realistic goals. It's no surprise that setting a realistic goal comes up here at number one, because there are times when our goals, our patience is tried, not because the goal is not because necessarily the goal is not coming in its time, but the goal is not coming because it's unrealistic. We've not really worked on, and you guys will see I'm walking under some trees right now. We've set unrealistic goals. And so it's difficult to achieve. And so we end up not wasting, but we end up in a space where our energies are being depleted because we have not used realistic goals. Okay? And that goal that you are reaching for may be unrealistic. And so you're waiting, and it's not happening. And it's not happening. See, how do I get out of here? Oh, let me go this way. It's not happening because it may be not achievable in the time that you've put. That's why the SMART goals are the ones that we've said, hey, this is what we want to do, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, right? So in that time bound is built in the idea that we've looked at this and we've determined that this is something that's doable within the time that we've set. Okay? So number one, we want to set realistic goals. Number two, sometimes we are not patient because we're waiting for the entire thing to be complete. We're waiting for everything to happen, waiting for the entire process to be successful. And this goes back to our idea of celebrating small wins, right? So don't wait for 100 days. I told you I'm celebrating every 7 days. When we get a week down, I'm out there celebrating, okay? Some of you are going to be celebrating a 10 days. But you got to pick some way to celebrate. And in fact, I'll tell you, to be honest, I said I'm celebrating every 7 days, but I actually celebrate each time I get done with one of these videos. I celebrate every time I go through the workbook or the worksheet. I celebrate. I think I told you guys a couple of days ago, I was out walking and I finished recording the video, and I sent my friends a couple of texts, and we ended up walking together, virtually that is, because I was doing, because I wanted to celebrate. I wanted to celebrate with them and let them know that, hey, I am out here walking, and we encouraged each other, okay? Yesterday when I was doing the video, I got a text. It says, time to go walk. I said, dude, I've been walking now. I'm 4.5, I think it was 4.5 miles. I was already 4.5 miles when they said, hey, let's go walk, okay? So that was encouraging because it sets me up for success because I'm celebrating, I'm sharing, right? So share the information. So make sure it's realistic, make sure you're celebrating, and the next thing that you want to do is you want to practice mindfulness. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness says that I am aware of where I am in relationship to the things around me, and I know how I'm feeling, and I'm aware of what's going on in my body. I'm aware of my internal temperature, feeling, thought regulation. Why is that important? Because there may be things that are triggering you that have nothing to do with the goal that you set, but you are now saying that you're being impatient with the goal, but something else is the problem, okay? And so being aware of things that may also trigger you, things that may push you in one direction or another, it allows you to not expend that energy in an area where it doesn't have to be expended, right? Now, if I need to expend energy because I'm working on my patients, that's one thing. But if I'm expending energy working on something totally unrelated, and that's having an effect on my patients and my ability to maintain patience, then that's a whole nother story. So mindfulness, practice mindfulness. And there are all different ways of doing that. We'll, as we get further into our walk and our discussions, we'll talk more about that and give some tools that you can use, okay? In fact, my show tonight is gonna begin introducing a concept that we've been working on and developing on how do we deal with certain aspects of our lives, okay? So practice mindfulness. And then the next one is surround yourself with support. Surround yourself with support. We talked about accountability in several of our discussions ago, maybe 2 or 3 discussions. But accountability is important. And sometimes we simply need someone to listen. We need somebody who's going to say to us, hey, it's only been 2 days. One of the things that we use in our office is we use some of the GLP-1 medications, or we may use some weight management medication, or we may use whatever it is that we're using. And so I'll have people that will come to the office, and we usually see them every 4, maybe 6 weeks. Sometimes we'll see them 2 weeks after we initiated some treatment protocol. And so they'll come back in 2 weeks, and their complaint is, hey, I've been doing this for 2 weeks and I don't see as big a benefit as I thought I was going to have. And so I'll ask, well, what benefit were you looking for? They say, well, I thought in 2 weeks I would have lost, I don't know, 20 pounds. And my question usually is, how long did it take to put the weight on? Right? How long did it take to accumulate the weight that you have? How long did it take for your blood sugar, your A1C, to get to a 10, 12, 13, 14 sometimes? And the answer is usually it took a while. And we'll go back and we'll evaluate, well, what benefit have we seen? Have we seen any move in the direction that we're expecting? And if we're seeing movement in that direction, then that's a good thing. And this is a great place to celebrate. But we want to make sure that we understand that patience is required. And so the people around us can help us to understand that. They can support us sometimes in our downtime when we're feeling particularly vulnerable. All of that happens if we surround ourselves with support. It can't be overstated, and I know I've said that before.
Time 29 minutes 18 seconds. Total distance 1.0 miles. Average pace 29 minutes 18 seconds per mile. Split pace 29 minutes 18 seconds per mile.
You guys just heard my app going off and giving me statistics, but it can't be overstated the benefit of having a support system. Okay, so make sure that you are cultivating a great support system, because it will be an amazing part of your process if you do it well, and if you maintain not just the accountability, but if you maintain all of that. So why is patience a superpower? Right? We talked a little bit about patience being very important, and patience will prevent burnout. Patience will prevent burnout. If you are patient, then you expect that it's going to take, as they say, a minute. It's going to take a while to get to where you need to be. We are 100 days of walking, and it's going to take us 100 days to get to 100 days. That sounds silly, doesn't it? But that's what it takes. We can't get to 100 days in 10 days. We can't get to 100 days in 50 days. We can't get to 100 days in 75 days. We can't get to 100 days in 99 days. It takes 100 days. And it takes patience to say that I know what the benefit is going to be at the end of this, and I'm willing to put in the time. I'm willing to accept the delay in seeing that ultimate result. But that's also the reason that it's important to track the progress that you're making, so that you know that you're heading in the right direction. Okay? So patience. Very important that it takes the time that it takes to get to where we need to be. It prevents you from burning out, because if you are constantly beating your head against the system, constantly pining that, hey, it's not moving fast enough, it's not moving in the right way, it's not right, you go on and on. Yesterday we talked a little bit about believing in the process. And so if you believe the process, understand that the process is going to take time. Okay? So it prevents burnout. The next thing is that patience builds resilience, because you got to be patient. There are going to be some days coming up here in a little while where we're not going to feel like walking. Something else is going to be going on. My foot is going to hurt. My back's going to hurt. And the question is, do I allow that to derail the process? Or do I allow myself the kindness to say, hey, something happened, something's going on, but I'm still in this, right? So it helps you to be resilient. Remember, resilience is that ability to have an interruption, have a bump, have a lump, have something that is interrupting the process and saying, okay, that's fine, but I'm not staying there. I'm bouncing back, right? So that's resilience. And so when we're patient, when we have that built into us, then it helps to sustain and helps us to develop the resilience that we need. Also, patience helps you, as I mentioned before, to stay focused. You have to understand the process. You have to understand what it takes. You have to understand the resources. You have to understand the timing. And you have to understand what the milestones are in that direction. And in order to do that, you've got to evaluate and you've got to be focused. Okay? So patience helps us to develop focus. That is what they say. Patience is a virtue. I think is one of the phrases that we've heard. When I am in the office, there are a lot of times when I'll see a couple that comes in to see me, whether one of them or both of them are my patients or clients. And I'll say to them, they've been married 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years. And I'll say to them, what is the secret to success? And without hesitation, I'll have them jump in and they'll say, they give a list of things. But over the years, invariably, somewhere in that list is this idea of patience. Patience for the quirky sense of humor that the spouse has. Patience for rolling the toothpaste from the bottom. Patience for leaving the toilet seat up. Patience for rolling the toilet paper from the wrong side. Patience for cooking a dish that mama cooked in a different way. Patience for his sloppiness. Patience for her desire not to be in the kitchen. Patience for how we raise kids. Patience for health challenges that we each may have. Patience for the journey that we each are on when we're not at the same location. So patience, when we develop patience can be applied to lots of different areas of our lives. And so I want you to make sure that you are evaluating yourself and say, okay, am I being patient in this particular time? Okay? All right. So patience as our superpower. I think one of the things that we want to make sure that we're looking at, there's a guy cutting the lawn over here, so I'm going to try to maybe, let's head over this way. And are we giving ourselves enough time to be successful? There's this story that I heard once about a guy who had been working on a particular project. And he's working, and he's been working for, I don't know, maybe a couple of years. And it wasn't quite working, wasn't quite going in the direction that he thought it should go. And so he decided, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. And he sold, I don't know if it was the lab or the business. And the guy who bought the business or the lab walks into the lab, looks at one of the piece of documents that he has, and adds a period. Right? So, okay, this was a computer program actually, and adds a period to the computer program, and hits enter, and the computer program runs the way it was designed. But the guy gave up, not way at the beginning, not even in the middle, but gave up right at the end when things were just about to work, when things were just about to come true, when things were just about to put him in the direction where he needs to be. And I'm gonna walk by and wave to some people while the lawnmower is going over there. All right, so what you don't want to do is you don't want to give up when your breakthrough, when the success is about to happen. Because that happens, and then essentially what are we doing? We're negating all the things we've done, and we're basically starting over, okay? Which we do not want you to have to do. All right, so now that we've talked about patience, I want to encourage you for a challenge. And you know how we do. We've got a challenge that we do for each of these. And before we do the challenge, actually, I recorded, or I wrote down a quote. Let's see, where is the quote? I wrote down a quote. And the quote is, all right, here's the quote. And it is that good things come to those who wait, but better things come to those who are patient and work hard every day. Yeah. I want you to take that with you. So our challenge of today is I want you to reflect on a long-term goal. It could be our 100-day walk that we're doing right now. That would be great. But you may have some other personal goals. You have some professional goals. You have some relationship goals. You have some goals that you want to become patient for. I want you to evaluate that. Are you giving yourself enough time? That's one of the questions I want you to ask. If not, adjust your expectations, right? So look at the goal, evaluate it. Am I giving myself enough time? What small wins can you celebrate today in that process? What milestones can you begin celebrating that gives you the dopamine burst, gives you that push, gives you that ability to celebrate and to say, okay, I'm moving in the right direction. And then how can you practice patience? Think of one way that you can cultivate patience with that goal over this next week. Whether it's adjusting your mindset, celebrating small wins, or focusing on the process instead. Okay? So that's your challenge. Here's another thing that patience does. Patience helps you to focus on the process rather than on the goal. Focus on the process rather than the goal. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. I am so excited that you joined me for another day. Hey, join us tomorrow when we continue our 100 days walk to consistency. Have a good one, everybody.